Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is June 30th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, Article 3, court action. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, and my free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jure Bay. Both are in capitis diminution nolo in red ink, in proprio persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign ancient empire state for Morocco, the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, the sovereign several states, the universal Moorish American consulate, and the Article 3 Moorish American consular court.
Pauline, you're so fucking full of shit.
Peace.
You're so full of shit, Pauline.
We are peace. We are love.
Pauline is full of
We
shit.
are the
And
air. Just one moment. We are peace, we are one nation, we are one state, we are one empire, and we are one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. Okay, I think we got rid of all of the foreign energy. So I think I want to make sure that we can all speak when we are ready to speak. And so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience while we get everything going. Before we go into our topics and things, has anyone heard any stories or anything going on in the news or anything like that that you would like to put on the table as far as affirmation of what we're doing? Because I've received so many just in the last 3 or 4 or 5 days, especially with regard to the gold standard, and then with regard to our new money system. We are being contacted by other nations earthwide who are saying, hey, we've heard about the dollarium, and we want to connect with you all, because many of them have their own money set up, their national currencies, which is what this was supposed to be, where all of the nations come together, put their national currencies on the table, and then agree to exchange goods and services and gold-backed sovereign lawful money among one another. And as it turns out, the collective consciousness has it that many in the other, in all of the areas, the territories and nations and states on our at Earth actually have been doing the same preparation, and they're looking over here, going, okay, I think we need to connect with the Moors. Because they have their own money system. And I will say this, that the dollarium has been the main connector, that when they see that, they come and they're like, we need to connect with them. And we're absolutely 100% open to hearing from all the nations at Earth with regard to lawful money that each of the nations and states control. Because I heard something in one of the videos that I was just kind of looking through YouTube, and I heard one of the foreigners say, and this is something that they knew all along, that they said the one that controls the food controls the people, the one that controls the energy mechanisms controls countries, and the one that controls the money controls the whole world. Well, the original indigenous people control the money. We control our own money. And so we control our world. So Are there any stories or any news articles that you want to put on the table at all that you've heard? We did hear that Rhodesia, they call it Zimbabwe, but it's not Zimbabwe, it's Rhodesia. And even before Rhodesia, they had their original name, I believe, was Iswahili. As their original indigenous when they were the republic. And don't quote me on that. I know one of the nations there, but I do believe it was Rhodesia who was Eswahili before. I hear that they are starting to print up gold coinage. And, you know, they're looking to trade and exchange with others who have the same lawful money. So we want to ensure as we move forward that we, again, remain sovereign, stay in our sovereign status, because there's some things that are going to happen over the next days and weeks and months. Everyone's already preparing for it. That is going to require that we continue to stand in the manner that we're standing right now. So especially with regard to the contracts, we have to not contract with them because they are not going to be here. The only thing that was holding them here was the adhesion of the contracts that individual Moors were making with them. That's the only way they have any type of a, you know, and when I say they, we're just talking about foreign energies, corporate, corpse, dead foreign energies. They have no standing whatsoever if we don't contract with them. I saw a story in the news recently where they had said something in Oklahoma to those doing business as Native Americans and Indian tribes, where the Indian tribes took their grievances about policy enforcers arresting them when they said they don't have jurisdiction. It's, you know, they were saying that it was their land. And so their quote unquote Supreme Court corporation, we know it's a corpse, it doesn't have any authority. They were celebrating this time last year where they had this ruling where they said, okay, their fake Supreme Court said, yes, all the land belongs to you all in this part of Oklahoma. And they were celebrating and things like that. And what do you know, just recently, the ones doing business as governor, quote unquote, of corporate Oklahoma, talked the corporate Supreme Court, and I hesitate to even call them that because that is not what they are, but talked them into reversing the ruling and saying, we think we might have made a mistake. That's not your land, and we do have the right to arrest you whenever we feel like we want to arrest you. And it was, you know, when they made the ruling, they said that it was, you know, oh, we the local and state, quote unquote, are not going to arrest any of you, and you all can't arrest us either. That's what they said, because they have their own, they supposedly have their own police force. Well, of course, the other ones broke their word and were still arresting them, you know. And when they started questioning that and putting it through fake courts, because, you know, their courts apparently were not strengthened enough to stand. That's important. They said, well, we're going to have to take back what we said. Oops. The land is not yours. We can arrest you. And they don't even care how the people feel about that or anything. But you cannot, we can't contract with those folks and expect them to, you know, because they're subjects. So when they contract, they're contracting in an incompetent manner. They do not stand under their contracts. They stand under our contracts or our agreements. And if we yield and contract with them, then they stand over it because they know we're not supposed to do that. So we don't. We just stand, period, and continue to be our sovereign selves. So I have a question for you. Just a quick question. The question is on the screen. True or false? Anything that you lawfully name, you have authority over it. Can you prove that? Just by looking at the question, can you prove that? Knowing what we know about us and about everything that we say and do. This is why we don't have names. Okay. I see you smiling up there, Empress. You look beautiful, by the way, Empress Shatali. So the word authority, I looked it up in the dictionary. And just out of curiosity, you know, we just look up every word. Every time we turn around, we looking up a word, just looking. And the root word of the word authority is author. It's author. And that's what we've been saying about these affidavits. If you write it, you're the authority over whatever it is that you write. If you name something and you put it in writing, then you are the authority on it. You have the authority over it. That's why we don't have names. But that we do, we gave names to all of the subjects. We gave them their names. And that's why the Bibliotech always talks about them doing things in our name. You know, when we were in church and they used to say, in the name of Jesus, in the name of the Savior. Well, that's true for them. They can't do anything without the name. And so when we're the authors of the names that we gave them, and that's why their names sound like our names. That's why their names sound, because they didn't have names at first. When we created them, we just had dominion over them. And then, just like it says in the Bible, God began to name things. Give it a name, knowing that when we name things, we have authority over it. So when we are the authors and the finishers of everything that has to do with us, we have authority over it. And that is why we take the time to vote on these calls and then put the things that we vote on the public record. We write it out because, again, the Savior said, it is written, it is written, it is written. It's so important for us to write down everything that we will to come forth. Write it down, autograph it, put it on the public record. It might seem minor, but we still have to do it. Because some people were saying things about, you know, about affidavits and how they don't need an affidavit. They just say what they want to say. You know, you have to actually write it down. It is written is real. That's real. And our ancestors wrote everything down too, whether it be hieroglyphics or gold tablets. They wrote everything down and then put it into law by publishing it. And the ancestors did not, the golden tablets, they didn't send the golden tablets to Illinois. They didn't really do that. They just put it out there and said, hey, everybody, hear ye, hear ye. This is the word, this is the law, this is the word of the Lord, period. So that is the importance, and that is why we write down the things we write down, and that we vote as often as possible on the things that have to do with our nation. And so the answer to the question is true. Anything that you lawfully name, you have authority over it. So this is also why we are putting the constitutions on the public record, because we are literally naming the land lawfully when we do that. And our ancestors gave us the blueprint. They gave us the blueprint. All we have to do is take it and put it in its proper format. And the land is ours because we named it. We are the author, therefore we are the authority of those lands that we name. I want to say that something that became even clearer to me, especially when we're talking about documentation and where we are. Let me give you an example of documentation with regard to where we are. So, for example, when we say Seattle, Washington, and I'm printing this on the screen because some Moors ask that we do that when we're speaking because they are kinetic learners. Some are kinetic, some are visual. Let's see. When we say Seattle, Washington, or Richmond, Virginia, or Chicago, Illinois, we mean Seattle, Washington, North Amexem, or North America, or Northwest Africa, or Seattle, Washington, Turtle Island. Or we could even say North America, because when the foreigners put theirs in, they always put in parentheses in black letters, in all capital letters and black ink, U.S.A. You even see that on, like if you go to McDonald's, for example. And this I noticed a long time, this I learned, they started doing this back in 2018. Where when you go there and you look at what pops up on the register, it will say $1 amount and then it will say USA. Meaning that is what they denominated that payment in, is that currency. So that told me that if you have to put that, that means that there are other options. So they're preparing, everyone is preparing, and, you know, our grand chief says, you know, that not to go to those kind of places to eat. So, because the ground meat is that's not what it should be. So we stay away from those places these days unless we're getting French fries. But, so, this is what we mean when we say where we are. Any of our states, any of our cities, are at North America or Northwest Amexem. Okay, so having said that, I have a photo that I want to show you with regard to that whole kind of like putting the final touches on what we talked about previously with regard to abortion. But before we go into that topic, there was a story that came out this week, and our prophet Noble Drew Ali said to watch the media so that we will know, you know, just kind of watch them, and that's in his hadith. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I'll put this link under the video as well. Just a moment. Oh. There was a story about a truck that had 50 plus migrants in it. And those 50-something migrants who were in the truck, there was you know, this is the story that was put in the media, and we know what we say about those types of stories. And we, again, if there was any loss of life, then, of course, our hearts go out to them. The point that we want to bring forth is that the truck that they were in is said to have been a truck, well, the truck had the same numbers and it had the right, painting, and, they were able to trace this truck to a company, apparently. However, when they got to the company about the truck, the company said that that is not our truck, that's a clone of a truck that we have. And so when they said that that was a clone of the truck that they have, it brought to mind what we're doing. And I thought to myself, okay, so if that's not their company truck, even though it has the numbers and everything, then they are not responsible for anything that has to do with what happened, because someone cloned their truck. And it was a fraudulent clone of their truck. And the owner of the company said that when he looked at the truck, he knew it wasn't theirs because it had, it just had this one window on the side that their trucks don't have. And then he was also able to point to their truck and say, no, our truck is right here in the yard. It's not the truck that has the migrants in it. Even though they look exactly the same, they have all the same, quote unquote, Department of Transportation numbers, registration numbers, and everything. So when I saw that story, I said, well, that means that the original truck and the original owner, quote unquote, is not liable for anything, and whoever it is that cloned that truck needs to be arrested, and they were. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, when we create our sovereign security numbers and things like that, we're creating them because we're the original. And those those quote unquote social security numbers that were misused and abused, that's the fake one. That's the false one. Those are clones of the original, because we know that no corporation originated anything. They supposedly, quote unquote, cloned everything, but gave it a dead black color. It was all colorable. So now we're looking at, as we continue this grand rising, and we're starting to create our own everything, our own IDs. We've been creating our own IDs. We're creating our own commercial IDs and things like that that have the same sequence of numbers as those that fraudulently cloned ours, because the numbers and things that we're using are not new numbers. They're ancient numbers. Sovereign security numbers are ancient. How do I know that? Because we did the research. And when you go to the Treasury website and you start looking through bonds and you put in your sovereign security number, which is actually the true number, the original number, a social security number is a clone, and it's a fraudulent clone at that, because it's a debtor number. When you put in that number on the Treasury website and you start looking at bonds that were created, you can go all the way back to before you were born, and there are bonds on that number that were created back in the 1930s and 1940s and 1950s, and most of us were not around then. And to those who were, you can go back further than that, and it'll be back there too. It'll be some information back there, and we're glad you're here. We honor your wisdom, and we're glad that you're here with us, because we need you. So those numbers are not new. I looked, I checked even for my sovereign security number. I went all the way back, and there were things back in the 30s and 40s, and I was not around then, in this form. So now we're getting to the place where we are going to have to start issuing arrest warrants. And we've done it previously, but this is the time to start doing it again. And some have been doing it all along. All law is specific. And so in the processes that we're in right now, the processes that we're doing right now, we have our lien process in place. We have our termination of corporate contracts and our fiduciary documents. We have control of our capitalism. So now it's time to start issuing arrest warrants for frauds. Anyone acting in a fraudulent capacity with regard to anything that has to do with us, because the numbers that are that we are issuing are our state numbers. We hold the rights to those numbers and those our appellations, and then the all caps. We own the rights because it's our state. So anyone trying to issue something with those all caps on it, we send an arrest warrant for them, because they can't use that without our permission, and it actually has to come from us. So we issued our first arrest warrant. We will be issuing it tomorrow, and we're going to continue doing that as a part of our documentation. And all we did was just put a sentence into our quo warranto mandamus restitutio that says that all fraudulent use of these letters in this order is being done by outlaws, if it's being done. And the language that we used was not if it's being done, but that these anyone issuing that without our permission is to be arrested immediately. So that is part of our strategy that we're using as well, because then it becomes a fraudulent clone. It's a clone, and it's not us. It wasn't issued by us. It's fake. So we need to issue arrest warrants. Just put a statement in there stating that anything that does not proceed from your desk or your mouth or your pen with, for example, Pauline Denise Ritchie in all capital letters, anything coming like that that I did not sanction and approve, we're sending arrest warrants for that. So we're just day by day adding different parts and pieces to our strategy. These things are things that we needed to do, but we had to get back to ourselves and put the proper documentation and orders in place. The proper processes, terminations of corporate contracts, because you can't really, we can now say that those are fake clones because we have terminated all corporate contracts, so that means we didn't give you permission to do that. We have no contracts with you, so we didn't give you permission to do it. So speaking of false black identities, I want to show you a document that I received, and it's a redacted document to protect the integrity and the privacy of the Moor who sent it. But this is an example of an abortion certificate that was supposed to be a birth certificate, but it has black footprints, and the footprints are on the paper before they even touch the ground. See, back in the day when we used to see those baby feet bronzed and there was a bronze, they used to put the baby's feet in some bronze, and then they would create a mold of the baby's feet. Initially, we did that with dirt and clay to put the baby on the soil, on the land first. And that way, that land identity takes its course before any paper does. And then when we no longer wanted to assist one another in the birthing process, and we allowed foreigners to do assisting of the birthing process, they started putting them on paper first, because then they could create that fake clone of the creditor and begin issuing things and doing things. And ultimately, at some point in the life of the heir, they would issue an arrest warrant or some fraudulent debt of some kind. So those who have, documents like this, it's an easy fix. So it's not by any means the end of the world. It's an easy fix. And the fix is to issue your own birth affidavit. And I will say this, when I saw this and I saw the purity of the intention, I said, we can always go back and put our feet in some red ink and put it on a piece of paper easily. Because we're using legal size paper anyway. So we could always do that. Go back and make and add that as another layer in our processes. And then we could also go out into the dirt, put our feet in the dirt, and let that dry out, and put some enamel over it and put that up and say we're the people of the land, period. And we are without all of that, but just for those who because some Moors want to fix, when they see things like that, they say, look, what can we do to fix that, because it's bothering me. Okay, you have remedy, and the remedy is created by us and no one else. So, but this is not a birth certificate, but by the same token, and let me make this clear too. By the same token, heirs, we can't really get mad at these types of documents, because that was the only recording that was being done. And if we didn't have these documents to create our own documents after, then what would we be using? What would we be using? So we can't get too mad at them, because that was the only form of recording that was being done. What am I saying? I'm saying that it is written, it is written, it is written. It's our turn. We have to write down everything, publish everything, and state it, and be the authority and the author of our own destiny, of everything that has to do with us. And that's why we say we speak by affidavit. We don't use forms. That is how all judges speak, by affidavit. You don't see, and in a lot of cases these days, you do see fake judges using forms to send stuff around with no seal on it or nothing, because they already know either the Moors are going to look at this and rebut it properly, or it's just going to go through, So it's up to us. Again, everything that has to do with us it's in our hands, period. There's nothing even further that we can say about that. So again, by the same token, it's a death certificate, because it does not state that the baby is alive. The footprints are black. Okay. Are there any questions or comments with regard to any of the things that we have stated thus far? And we will go back over some of the things. We can look back at the uniform commercial codes because we need to elevate them to universal. And we've done that already, but it helps to look back through them to see that we can use our dalarium for whatever we want to use it for. It says it in the universal commercial codes. We can use our liens for whatever we want to use it for, because that's the type of currency that is used whenever you're talking about the type of numbers that we put on our documents. No one walks around with 100 million in a suitcase, you know, of fiat. No one does that. We actually have, because we're dealing with gold and gold-backed money, it's better from a logistical standpoint to use our liens to do the things that we need to do. Our liens and our dalarium, because we have such high denominations or nominations of dalarium. So are there any questions, comments, wisdom, etc., with regard to any of the things, or any questions about anything that we have spoken of previously? Islam.
This is Natali from the Khalifa territory. So after you explain that document, our question is that supposed to be the standard birth certificate now, or what was that?
That was a birth certificate from the 80s or 90s, I believe.
Okay.
And again, that was when we were very fast asleep, and so they would just take the feet and say the baby is a corpse first, and black feet. Think about that, because that's actually when they started doing that. That's the Blackfeet tribe. And I won't, and please, those who claim Blackfeet, that's not you. That's the corpse tribe, which doesn't exist. You're the real ones. You're the real Blackfeet. But yeah, that's where, you know, when they started saying Blackfeet, and nobody rebutted Blackfeet on a certificate like that. Nobody rebutted it and said, no, we're on the land first. You know, as soon as the baby came out of the womb, they would just have the container there with the dirt in it and stamp the baby's feet in the dirt and keep on moving, you know. And then someone would be waiting there to put that out in the sun and let it dry, and, you know, in the mud, and they would let it dry, and there it was. The baby was a land baby, you know. And then by the time our babies were 12 years old, 12 for the empresses and 14 years old for the sons. By the time they were 12, they knew all about capitalism and all of that stuff, and they could literally go out into the world and do their commerce and know not to let anybody else hand them a document with their sovereign-born appellation on it. That any documents that had to do with them, they had to draw them up. Our sons and daughters knew that. So yeah, that's from the 80s, 70s, 80s or 90s. I will say this, that when I was fast asleep when my daughter was born, and the hospital that she was born at, they just went straight to all capital letters. They didn't even bother with, but I will say this, they let, because they have to tell the truth. And even then, we were so asleep. They showed us, you know, I happened to be looking on the screen when one of the nurses was putting in information about with regard to my heiress. And again, this was 20-some, almost 30 years ago. So I was really fast asleep. And she was putting some things in, and she said, "Come here, look at this." And I looked and I looked and I looked, and they had my heiress as white. In the system, they had her as white, and it was in capitis diminutio minima, and that was in the hospital record. She was white, and you know, we were just asleep. We were like, oh no, she ain't white, she's black. You know,
they tried.
But you know what? She didn't change it either on the screen. She didn't change it. She did not change it. She just left it there, and then they issued us an all caps, you know, birth certificate. I was like, really, y'all? When I look back on that, I was like, oh, ancestors, why did y'all do that to us? You know, because we had no idea. We had no idea.
No.
And here we were thinking, oh, it's because she's so bright and fair-skinned. You know, my consort his appellation is Moore. His sovereign-born appellation is Moore. He is born at Chicago, Illinois, Northwest Annexum, and he is Moorish, 100%, but he's fair-skinned, and so she came out fair-skinned, you know, but we knew nothing. We were fast asleep, you know, and we're sitting there trying to tell them, and they knew all along. That's why I said, Morris, they have always known who we were. When I think back on that one piece right there, I say they knew their hospital records, and she was born. I won't put the hospital on blast, but they knew. They knew who we were from the beginning. And that's why I say, Moors, when we use our sovereign-born appellation, but we state it properly, that's the creditor, period. That's the creditor. And yes, we use our L and Bay and Al and Ali. I am like to jure Bay in capitis diminutio nolo all day, every day. Pauline Denise Ritchie is the creditor in the books. You know, and the sovereign-born appellations that your mothers gave you, and I could at any point put Pauline Denise Ritchie L. You know, I can always add my title of nobility there and still be, you know, my sovereign self. We all can, you know, so don't let anybody scare you away from the sovereign-born appellation that your sovereign mother, who gave you your birthright, stated that day. She stated it properly, and then someone cloned it at the end of the table. That's the point that we're making, is there's a fake clone, and then there's you. And, you know, that right there has been the one area where the most opportunity for growth has presented itself with the Moorish nation, is knowing that when you state your sovereign-born appellation, it's sovereign, and when someone else tries to issue something with regard to you, it's a clone, it's a fake, phony clone, and it is not you. It's a shell corporation, and it's not you. No matter what they're saying, it's not you.
I was not the author of that. It is not authorized.
That's why when people were saying, Empress, I'm so glad you said that. That is why when people were saying, I'm the authorized representative of this clone thing, we're like, no, you can't be that, because that's fake. You cannot be the authorized because you weren't the author of it. You're the author of the one that the one that we create is spelled the same, it looks the same on paper and everything, but because we state it properly, we're the author and the authority, and no one else can take that. That's why I have no problem issuing anything that has to do with Pauline Denise Ritchie, because when the quote-unquote City of Federal Way Corporation, this is in their corpse black status before we put them in subject status, they were issuing things that said Pauline Denise Ritchie, this, that, and a third. I knew that wasn't me. I told them that back in 2017 when I did my first POW demonstration. And I didn't even know it the way that I know it today. I just knew, and I know that that was the ancestor speaking through me, because I didn't even really realize at the time what I know now. But we're just remembering what we know from ancient times. So that's why the ancestors just let that come out. A phony, fake, quote unquote, attorney put something and said they said in 2017, they said she put some documentation in front of me, and she said, we can give you 2 years or we can give you 6 months. You get to choose. She put 2 pieces of paper and she said, you get to choose. Had I chosen any one of them, I probably wouldn't be sitting here now. I looked at them and I said, that ain't me. And it had Pauline Denise Ritchie, but it was issued from the dead. So I knew it wasn't me, and they couldn't do anything with that. They could not do a thing with that because I knew it was not me. I knew it wasn't me. So now I know that only I can issue, because we have the sovereign ancient trademark. The sovereign ancient mark that says that when we issue something, it's living and it applies to us. And if we didn't issue it, we actually have the option to choose. If we didn't issue it and it's something we want, we can handpick that and say, okay, we'll take that. We'll take this part of it, but we don't want that part. And then what do? We don't just accept it the way it's given. We say, okay, this looks like something that I'm interested in, whether it be VA benefits, disability, retirement, unemployment, whatever it is. You look at what they're offering, and then you say, okay, you all can't speak on me, so I'm going to craft an affidavit that says I'll take this part of it, but I'm not taking the tax part because we're not taxed. That's how we do what we do. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. And I'm seeing now that just through some of the information that we've come across in our studies and videos that we've seen and things like that, because as you know, when we're studying, the ancestors will pop things up on our screen, and they do it to all of us, where you're looking for one thing and they'll pop something else up on your screen and you're like, wait a minute, that's what I was looking for 2 hours ago. I saw a video of a quote unquote billionaire in Ghana, a billionaire in Ghana. That's what they called him. He's supposed to be a billionaire. And he has all this land in Ghana. And of course he's a Moor. He's one of us. But something that he said in his interview really, really hit home with me. First of all, many of those, here we call them the boule. The boule is those that look like us, that always knew who we were, but they were not. They were under oath, Masonic oath, not to tell us who we were, even though they're one of us. You know, and our teachers called them leader guys, black leader guys. These leader guys knew who we were, but they took all the benefit, and I can't even say they took all of it, because half of them in jail right now are in bad shape financially. But we always saw their faces on television every time something happened. If there was a shooting of a quote-unquote black person, then their faces would be up there, and they would be trying to keep everybody from rioting and keep everybody calm and helping get a lawyer or an attorney on the case, you know, to keep the Moors quiet so that they don't wake up too soon. And they knew who we were. So this man in Ghana, he said something very important. He said that in Ghana, he's first a Ghanaian, meaning he knows his nationality, because Ghana is the land. That's how he got all that land. He knew his nationality. He said that one of their military leaders, who's as dark as night in terms of complexion, which is beautiful, one of their military leaders told him, he said, it's best and most advantageous for him to be a Ghanaian first, and then he said a European second, as a second-class citizen. What was he saying? He was saying, with your nationality, anything else is gravy, and you can cherry pick whatever you want from. And that's what Moors have been doing with the, attempting to do with the all caps name. But again, that all caps name did not, that past one, before we put our fiduciary documents on the public record, that thing didn't belong to us because it was a corpse. It still doesn't belong to us. We don't even claim that one. We lien that one and do away with it. And then we put our own on the public record. And I see now where that same man talked about how, government, he didn't really need government to do anything except give him a grant to start a business. And then he would run the business the way he wanted to run the business. And he proved that because when you look at all the land he had, land wasn't even the only thing. He was an industry titan as well, and is an industry titan there as well. But he knows his nationality. He knows who he is. And he knows that any foreigners calling themselves government couldn't touch him because he knows who he is by birth. And he said that. By birth, he's first Ghanaian. And then another thing he said was that when he came here to America he came just to get the citizenship. He said, all I did was buy the citizenship, and you know what they said to me? They said that by definition I was African American. He said, I'm not American, I'm Ghanaian. But they said, by definition, I'm African American. That told me a lot too. That told me that foreigners fit that profile of African American because it's 14th Amendment. Foreigners fit that. But the foreigners came here and was giving us that one, and they were taking the one that gets all the benefits, that claims that nationality of American, and so, or Al-Moroccan, because Al-Moroccan and American, they are derivatives one of the other. American is a derivative of Al-Moroccan. And so even those titans over in other lands have always known who we are. And they got benefits from allowing these foreigners that were here to give them documentation. And that's why we have to start issuing all the documentation, Moors. Any documentation with regard to foreigners coming here, we have to issue it. And that's what we're gearing up to do. Anyone coming on this land, they have to have documentation from us that states who they are. And watching that interview also told me this about our brothers and sisters over in the other lands. It answered some questions for me. That when they come here, they don't need citizenship documents. They need sovereign, if they come from Ghana, they need a sovereign Ghanaian national ID. They're not going to be denationalized coming here because they're Moors. They're heirs to the land over there just like we're heirs to the land over here. And we're all heirs to the land everywhere because we're all brothers and sisters. So the reason they will be coming here is for commerce. And the reason we will be going there is for commerce. To look at things and see what's happening and see what we need, and we see what and they see what they need, and we exchange. But that answered a whole lot of questions for me. I've had that question from the beginning, really. You know, our brothers and sisters are nationals, and we said that in the past. We just didn't know that how to deal with it when they came here. Did we give them American citizen documents, or did we did we go by their national ID? Well, we go by their national ID, and anyone who doesn't have a national ID will get a citizen ID, and that's according to the law. If you cannot prove your status in any other way, then you're a Moorish subject ipso jure. And that African American thing, they were calling ones that came over here just recently, they were calling them African American. But before that, they were giving them white status. They were saying they're white, like they said about what was on my daughter's the birth certificate that was in their system, that they didn't change. And you know what? To this day, I have not seen that birth certificate that said she was white. I saw it in the system. It said it right at the top of the page, birth certificate. And it said that she was white. And I have not seen that, so of course we created it because we had to. They are under no obligation to give that to us because it's not even valid coming from them. It's valid when it comes from us about our heirs. We get to state who we are. So we're at a very, very, very important time, heirs. And I'll say this about the time that we're at too. And I know many feel this. The time that we just came from, just the last year, has been a time of shaking. It has been a time of testing to see who's going to stand and who's not going to stand.
Islam Empress, if I could just add something.
Yes, Islam.
Yes, this is Rose Bay from Minnesota Territory. Yeah, so as I was listening to you speak about our brother from across the ocean, so I have some thoughts. So, you know, when I was working on my liens, I also, because I was born in the territory of Haiti, and I liened corporate Haiti because as I was studying, it's my understanding that all those nations have corporate nations, right? And so it's possible that, like, perhaps the same thing that has been happening here on this land has been happening in other nations when it comes to the birth certificates and things getting, you know, basically vampire, rhythm happening with them.
Cloning. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about what was my other thought? Yeah, just, like, I know this is our central, but I always think about how much those other nations are also needing to be freed from the same thing that we need to be freed from. Like, for example, the nation I was born in, so much has happened esoterically in a bad way and things like that has weakened it and things like that that has to do with the corporate, also, and like you said, we are all brothers and sisters, and one of the things that, made me wake up to stating my nationality was I was told in a dream, like, you have ancestors here on this land, we're all one, and things like that. And, so I just kind of want to remind us to remember that. And I know you already stated we're brothers and sisters, but, like, everything we're doing here is just helping everyone be free because, like, we're all family.
Yes. And Empress, since you brought that up, I want to show you the corporate. There's Haiti corporate on Dunn and Bradstreet. I just pulled them up really quickly while you were speaking. It says Government of the Republic of Haiti. And this is the parent one doing business as the government. right there. There it is right there on the screen. Executive, legislative, and other general government support. I will say this too about this right here. They're doing all that they can to get in alignment with what we said, so they're even changing the language that they used. Executive, legislative, and other general government support. So they are to be this is what this was all created for, was they were to support us administratively, not pretend to be us. You know, so here it is right here, Government of the Republic of Haiti, and it's listed on Dun and Bradstreet. This is Dun and Bradstreet page. And even Dun and Bradstreet has put their thing in all lowercase letters, just getting in alignment with what we said, you know.
Yeah, for me, it's so close to heart because I witness every day how much that corporation in Haiti has, you know, employed, you know, fake senators and fake congressmen, and they don't give the money back to the people, and the people are starving, and it's just really, really bad, you know. And I mean, it's around the world, and it's bad here, and so yeah, just wanted to.
Do you have Delarium? Do you have that in your email? Did I send you Delarium? I believe I did.
Ember Shaddai sent me some. I have some, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Haiti. Haiti is going to be helped by way of your sovereign demonstrations because you are connected there. We all are, and Haiti is connected here, you know, evenly. We're all the same. We're all one. They need to print because they had their own money at one point. And Haiti was they were resistant, and that's why they had a lot of issues there. They were resistant to that corporate piece for a long time. They held out and they stood for a long time against the corporate, you know, the corporate that was trying to take their resources, because Haiti is sitting on top of one of the most rare earth elements, and the whole island is the top of the mountain of that rare earth element, and the foreigners know that. And so Haiti stood for a long time, and now they need to begin producing their own birth affidavits and everything the same way that we do. And your birth affidavits should look just like ours. Because Haiti is connected directly to us.
Oh yeah, it is. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of mystics in Haiti that have said, like, you know, some of the things, you know, they'll like make certain things parallel Haiti here, things that happen here, and then they'll like parallel it here, you know, the hypothecate things, you know.
Yes, it was the same earth-wide. The hypothecation and subrogation was the attempted hypothecation and subrogation was the same earth-wide. There was a corporate. All of the indigenous governments were. There was an attempted subrogation of the indigenous governments by corpses and corporations. Period. The corporations. There's an element of the corporations that we said, okay, we will take your corporate support. But then that corporate support was hypothecated by those wanting to usurp our authority. So, Empress, the work that you're doing is key in the return and the reversion of that vast estate as well. All you have to do is start with you first. Save yourself first. Then all of the other will come. It will come because what we're doing is energetic. It's by vibration and frequency. And when one part of the bloodline gets it, it vibrates throughout the others that are directly connected to. And then before you know it, it's all the way around the earth like it is right now. I mean, there are people that have Delarium in their possession in places that we didn't even know they had internet over there, and they are saying, we got it. Let's come together, you know. So I'm grateful that you're here, Empress. Haiti is a beautiful place.
Yes, and we're here. Like the ancestors, we've been here. Like you know, we know, but we're here. And you know, a lot of my work is done in that dream realm. And you know, I'll dream of there's ancestors that are on the Mississippi, you know, that are speaking Haitian Creole and things like that. Freedom spirit that's in us, it's here. So
yeah,
we're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. We are all grateful.
Yes, that's it.
Haiti is in our heart. That's in our heart. Haiti's been through a lot, you know. We all have, and now we get to say what happens with us. So
Yes,
for that we are grateful. Yeah.
yes.
Islam. And give those beautiful heirs, our future, a hug back there in the back. They are not shy, clearly.
No, he's not. He's not.
Islam. We are grateful for him too. We have a future. It's great.
Yes, that's definitely
Silence will not be, you know, silence is acquiescence will never be said about our heirs.
Yeah, that's
So Islam, thank you, Empress.
Islam.
Are there any other questions or comments with regard to any of the information that has been put forth thus far? Where we are right now, the shaking has taken place, and there was this last year has been sort of like a separating the wheat from the tares, but not really, because separating the wheat from the tares, to use that terminology, I don't like to use that terminology, even though I did previously. But I don't like to use that terminology because even those who appear to be tares still have to proclaim who they are and be unified. So there has been a shaking, and you know, a year ago, if you look at the demonstrations that are being done, some Moors who were demonstrating then are not demonstrating now, or they've, you know, gotten a little quieter with their demonstration. Meanwhile, for every, you know, one who has said this orange stuff is just, I'm chilling on that. Well, for every one that has said that, there have been 100 who have awakened and said we need to demonstrate who we really are. And so for that, I'm grateful. That's number one. And number two, the ones that are coming, they're coming with their eyes wide open. And number three, the ones who have said, I'm going to sit for a minute. One thing I know about them, and I'm seeing a pattern with them, is that they may sit down for a little while, but it's like fire shut up in their bones too. At some point they say, well, it's time to get back up and get back at it, you know. And we're grateful for that too, that they may take a breather for a little while, but we're still moving forward together. And anything that they missed while they were sitting, they have the means to get it, to catch up, you know, and be right with us as we're moving forward. So we're excited about all that our ancestors are doing, the ancestral energies. So I did want to ensure that we're going to revisit everything that we did in the past. We're going to revisit it. What we're doing right now is we were just laying the foundations for what we're going to be building on, such as the constitutions and the charters. That part is so important right now. It's just amazing, because I see some things manifesting even in this territory where that is concerned, with regard to the properties that are in the territories and all of that. So we introduce things, and then we see how see how everyone feels about it, and then we say, okay, let's move forward and introduce a few more things, and then we'll come back to that. One of those is the Al-Moroccan-American exchange. When we initially introduced Dollarium, we also shortly thereafter introduced the Al-Moroccan-American exchange. That exchange has been growing just organically since we first introduced it. We needed to put some more things in place in order to continue to manifest the Al-Moroccan-American exchange, and that's going to be ongoing. So the documentations that were done at the time, we have them. Right now, what we're doing is integrating that Al-Moroccan-American exchange into the Dollarium and all that's being manifested with it. And that's, as we stated from the beginning, all of our documents were done where Dollarium is concerned and not where fiat is concerned, you know, with regard to donations and things like that. So we're going to continue moving forward and just looking at the demonstration and the manifestation of the Al-Moroccan-American exchange where commerce is concerned. And then also we've introduced several things over the last few years, starting with the lien process. We introduced that by affidavit. There were Moors who were doing liens before, and they were doing them according to that system. They were, you know, filling out forms, and we honor that as well. We just wanted to introduce some other process, another way to do things, which is strictly by affidavit. And we see now, even in the records, where that was the best move to make in terms of law that stands. And we're not saying that no one else is standing. What we're saying is that we have chosen affidavit, and now when we look at the law regarding affidavit and with regarding sovereign expression, the affidavit is the universally accepted method by which a nation speaks. Nations, states, and governments speak by affidavit. That is actually what treaties and constitutions are. They're actually affidavits and agreements that where each nation decides, okay, this is how we're going to come together with other nations. So we haven't forgotten any of the things that we've introduced over the last, 3-4 years. Everything is one step after another. Islam in the chat. We're glad that each and every one of you is here. Those who were invited by others, we're glad that you're here. And we appreciate that you're here as well. And we hope that we are giving you the information that will assist you in your sovereign, the way you express yourself from a sovereign status in terms of the state and the government. Statehood. When we look at international law and all that has been done with regard to international law, this sovereign state is a conveyance method by which all rights can be expressed internationally and be recognized internationally. I will say this, that there are a lot of others who comment on the things that we do. If they recognize it, then the international community does as well. Justice on Longo. Let me see if I can assist you with speaking. I don't know why it's not Let me see if I can assist you. Yeah, it's saying, let me see. Justice Onlinne, go ahead and speak if you can. It's not saying that you're muted. It's saying that you're not muted. But we cannot hear you. Yeah, I don't know why we're not hearing you, Justice. So if you would, maybe sign out and sign back in. If you want to do that, let me know in the chat and I'll unlock the meeting. Because we cannot hear you at this point. Justice Onlinne is at Trinidad territory. And I'm grateful for all of the heirs who are what they were calling overseas, who just attend the calls and have that connection with us. We're just so grateful. Are there any other questions, comments of anything, of any nature? Our next meeting is going to be Sunday, and hopefully by Sunday, I will have put together the documentation with regard to the Constitution, the state documentation that points you to the resources at your territories. Okay, Justice Onlinne, I will. I will unlock the meeting. Okay. Yes, I will, by Sunday, hopefully I'll have the documentation together. And it will just be the complete packet of statehood documents. And when I say statehood, we're now talking about the territories, because we're all one empire state. We are the states of the empire. But then each one of us has our territories that we're governing. So I'll have the documentation put together to show you the claiming of the resources at the territories and what that looks like, the proper claiming of the resources at the territories. And that's something that we all can do. It's already done, but we want to put the law in place specifically and manifest it as such, because all law is specific. So, and if we don't have it this Sunday, we'll have it in the next couple of over the next couple of meetings, because it's a little bit extensive, but most of the things you've done already. If you've done the Constitution, Islam nobility, if you've done the Constitution and you've done the at least one county charter, then you have most of the documentation you need, and then we'll be able to point you to one or two other documents that tell you where the gold and the resources are in the territory. And then we'll show you a prosperity schedule that shows the way that we've done it is we showed this recently, where we just put the documents or actually the resources. For example, if you have pine tree tea, if pine trees grow in your territory, which they grow in all territories, and your territory wants to add pine tree tea to your resources, how to put that into a schedule so that at different times of the year we're always working commercially as merchants in order to get those resources pulled and over to each other according to what we need. We're gonna begin focusing more intently, with intention, on beginning to send out the sea salt and the products that we have here in this territory. to the heirs by order, and it will be something that you can order. And we do not accept fiat for anything that we do. And as nations, and even the other nations that are coming, they're actually relieved to hear that we don't accept fiat for the things that we have in our territories. You know, that was one of the reasons that's one of the main draws where they're being drawn to us. It's because of the dolarium. So we want to demonstrate that among each other as well. Everyone knows that that is happening. So with that being said, I don't have anything further at this point. Are there any questions or comments with regard to Islam, Empress?
With other countries, well, the pseudo countries, saying that they are leaving the United States dollar, the petrodollar, and going back to gold-backed and metal currencies, I kind of read that as they are giving everything back to us. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. They are. They never took it. We just needed to stand up and claim what was already ours. So they were custodians, but from a custodial perspective, the answer is absolutely yes. We have gained full control of the vast estate. We just need to continue remembering how to do that, how to manifest the full control. But they never had any issues when we're competent and peaceful of giving, of saying, here you go. They never had any issues with that.
How come Pauline can never do half the shit that she tells you morons to do? How come Pauline can't get a car? How come Pauline can't get a free conveyance, you morons? Pauline can never do any of the stuff that she tells you to do, you morons. Why can't you just let her go?
Come on. Ooh, I have made someone angry or something, although that was not our intention. All right. Let's see. So, just one moment. The view that I had. Okay. So, the thought that I was speaking on, I kind of got a little bit away from it. So the things that we are manifesting at this time, everything that we spoke about in the past is literally manifesting right now. And yes, the custodians have no problem. Like I said, Empress, and I'm so glad you stated what you stated. When we're competent, they will yield. That has we've always stated that. We stated that in the past, and we are happy to state that at this time, that when we're competent, they will yield and do exactly as they need to do. And many did not believe that. What we're doing is not really about feelings and beliefs. We know the law. And the law says that when the heirs are competent and we stand, then they sit. And they sit by the actions of our right hand. And that's what that means in the Biblios Heliotext. To be seated at the right hand of God. That's what that means. Seated at the right hand does not mean sitting next to us, although that's part of it. They sit. Seated at the right hand means that by the use of the right hand and the documents that we put on the public record, that is how they are seated. When we stand them up, they are in subject status and they sit as pretend they were pretending to be governors.
You're so fucking full of shit, Pauline. Nobody.
So there. That is what that means. Are there any other questions or comments or anything of that nature from the heirs? Islam. Okay, we will meet again on Sunday so that we can put some more laws on the public record and some more things in place. Did we have any business that we needed to attend to from our last call or our last couple of calls? Did we have any business that we need to wrap up?
Islam?
Islam.
Yeah, we're supposed to finish the UCCs.
Yeah.
You finished that up. We didn't do that.
Yes, I remember, and I mentioned that on our last call that some other things had come up, so we were going to move forth with the vote that we took on the last call. We have about 15 minutes. We can pull up those definitions and go through a few more of them. We stopped at the 15th definition last time with the universal or the uniform commercial code.
Oh, you can finish it on Sunday. I was just mentioning that that was extra that we had to.
Thank you for that ability. We'll go ahead and then and adjourn this time, and then we'll pick back up with that on Sunday. I'm telling you, when you look at those definitions and you see, in fact, let me make sure that everyone has it so that you can study it before Sunday. Or if you want to go ahead and pull up the uniform commercial codes from start to finish, and they are located at Public Law 88-243, dated December 30th, 1963. That is where the the Uniform Commercial Code is located in the public law. It's Public Law 88-243. And if you Google House Resolution 5338, dated December 30th, 1963, it will bring them up also. Okay, so look through them and study them, because they are loaded and just packed with affirmations that everything that we've done is absolutely what we should have done, specifically with regard to gold-backed Morris sovereign dollarium and liens, the finance piece, because that's what this is. Uniform commercial codes, and then we'll elevate them to universal as we go through them. But uniform commercial codes, and in our case, universal commercial codes, them being universal elevates them out of the purview of any foreign corporate mercenary. Okay. Thank you, Nobility in the chat, Justice Dumois. We thank you. We note your vote for the record. He did vote yay because he was not present at the last meeting. Thank you for that, Nobility. We appreciate your input there. Again, yes, Islam.
I just wanted to have a quick question. Maybe it might not take that long, but about July 4th and the event that's going to be around that. Can you elaborate if you know anything about that?
Which event? Regarding independence?
No, I'm talking about the Mobile Pro Show and how there's Well, what it was said was, I watched Rod Hayes, and he was saying that there's going to be a worldwide event that was going to take place, and things are going to be changing, and it might take 2 to 3 months for them to take place. So I was just wondering if you knew anything, if you could elaborate.
I know exactly what the event is. I know what I do not know, and I don't want to be a fearmongerer about some of the manifestations of that event. But what the event is, and I'll just speak generally about the event, is financially the things that we've done in the past, the gold standard, the new money system, and all of that, has to be implemented. It has to be, the finalities of it are being revealed, because it's already done. It just needs to be revealed to them out there. Empress, can you put in the chat the link to the Vice story that you sent me earlier today? Can you put that in the chat for the Moors to see it?
I can.
Because that's actually a precursor to what is about to take place. What is about to take place is everything that has to do with the Moors is going to be revealed publicly on the public record by the others. Because, you know, we've been putting things on the public record about who we are. And with all of the strong documentation and the financial things and things that we've been putting on the public record, some felt a little bit discouraged because none of it made the quote-unquote 6 o'clock news. Well, that media, the earth-wide media, and I won't say earth-wide, the corporate media, is beginning to tell others, the public, that we're awake in the way that they know how. So for those who are here in this meeting, if you would please grab the link in the chat that the Empress Angel just put in the chat, please, and take a look at that. It is the precursor to what's coming, because they have to tell people about the truth about who's really the government. And they're not even saying anything about anything other than the Moors. And they're using other Moors to do it, sleeping Moors to do it, because that will give foreigners who may or may not be aware, that will give them comfort if they see one of us saying, well, these people are saying that they're Moors, but we don't know how valid that is. You know, if you see one of us saying that, as opposed to all of us saying, yep, we know who we are, and then it being nothing but foreigners on the other side of the table, or sitting in the courtroom, rather. It's just more comfortable for them to do it that way. And there may be stories and things that come out about the Moors. They are using other Moors to color the power and the authority that we have. But I will respectfully ask and humbly ask that as those who are doing that whole media thing where they have to start telling people, okay, we don't have any recourse, our little corporate system failed, and they're the government, we got to tell the people somehow. I would respectfully and humbly ask the Moors to just be patient with what you see on the news about that, because they're going to be a little bit incompetent about saying it, but they have to say it. Meanwhile, we'll keep doing what we're doing from our noble perspective and our noble status. Continue leaning, because I'll say this about the liens even. The liens started out strong and powerful. Right now, liens are nuclear in terms of the power and the authority of a lien done by the Moors. Nuclear. Cannot be denied. Unavoidable, coming from our courts. So we want this to be a peaceful emergence. And when I say emergence, it's an emergence on their part of them making their people making the citizens feel comfortable. Because again, this is our land. We don't want citizens ramping and raving and running up and down the streets and acting crazy out of fear. So let that piece unfold while we stay focused on what we're doing. We must stay focused on what we're doing, and we can look, I'm grateful for the Moors who send me things about what they're saying. I watch what they're saying too. It's not my main focus, but I watch it because it is affirmation that they already know who we are. And just like our prophet said, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that they'll tell the truth when they're facing death. Well, we're not violent people. We are peaceful people. Why did they even come here? Commerce. Is there such thing as commercial death? Yes. Who has the authority and the power of life and death in their tongue? We do. It's in our words that we put on these documentations. And it cannot be hidden anymore. And so as this happens, and I'm going to try not to get too emotional here, as this emergence happens, Moors, despite all that we have been through, the way that we can make things better on our land is to be pure love as this process unfolds, even towards the subjects and the foreigners and all. Is to just be pure love and let pure love be the way that we respond to whatever the unfoldment looks like. There is a financial component to what is going on where there may be some, and I'm gonna reverse that spell because I've been hearing that spell where they're saying, oh, everything's gonna stop, all the shelves are gonna be empty and la 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 la. We're gonna have more than enough. It has already started, and I'll prove that. Here, let me pull up a little bit of documentation here.
Is on?
Mm-hmm.
Karima Bang, Virginia territory. I just wanted to say that here in this territory, it appears that it's business as usual. Like when I go out on the land, and I just take note of the things that I see, and I do see things, and I know that my liens are competent, and I know that they're working. But in this territory, they're doing a pretty good job with making it seem like everything is just normal. Yeah, well, it's just business as usual. I'll stick to that terminology.
Yes, they're great actors, Empress, and that acting is that they're doing at your territory that you are noticing is a direct result of what you're doing. Because everybody knows it's not business as usual. Even their media says it's not business as usual. So if they're acting like it's business as usual, that's an act. Because even their media knows it's not business as usual. And then when you put a lien out there for 100 million or whatever the case may be, they already know what that is. They know what that is. That's how we got the treaty done, is lean everything moving and say, okay, no, nothing is moving until there's commitment to that, until you are subject and submit to that. So it is going to look that way, Empress. And I will say this about that too. When we first started doing this work, Empress, it seemed like business as usual for a while, but something in my spirit said, no, that's not business as usual. That it couldn't, it's not. And the more we demonstrated, and the more persistent we were with the demonstrations, in the face of jail and everything, still demonstrating, we see the whole thing is done. If you just listen to what, and I wouldn't say listen, but yes, listen, because Moors can listen to whatever they want to listen to, and their sovereign truth center will resonate or not if it's not truth. If you even listen to the one that was doing business as Federal Reserve chairman of the Federal Reserve, they said a year ago that they pretty much essentially they're just doing formalities. It's formalities. Formalities is something you do just to say that you're moving. You know, it's just formalities because of what we're doing is so powerful and so effective. But again, we hired. That's why they're called the acting chief of this and the acting CEO and the acting president and the acting this and acting that. Because they're great actors. In fact, that is what that corporation did best. The United States Corporation Company, that's what they did. They were a bunch of actors. That's all we hired. That's how come Hollywood flourished under them. The ones that were previously doing business as Jews. Because they're all actors. And that acting will stop when you tell it to stop. Let me tell you how I stopped that acting. I stopped them from acting when I started saying to them over and over. And when I say over and over, with every demonstration, I said, you can stop acting now. We know you know who we are. And when I spoke to them like that, they just stopped acting. And got quiet. Have you ever said that to any of them? You already know who we are.
No, I haven't said that.
Just try that spell. Cast that spell on them, Empress, and they'll stop acting. The only reason they were acting in the first place is because because we were calling them judges, and we were calling them. It's like you're a director on a stage. They call it the world stage for a reason. And if you call them that, they're going to start acting like that. And if you say, nope, you're a subject. The minute we said these ones in this territory are subject to us, and we just kept putting that on the public record, and we put it in our documentation, they're subject. They're subject. So just, that is done to see if you'll stand, to see if you'll keep doing what you're doing. Because what were we expecting, Empress? And that's my question to all Moors. When you, who are the heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce, folks can't even make shoes without your permission. What were you expecting them to do when you woke up and said, hey, we're here? What was the expectation? I'm just curious. What were we expecting them to do?
Naively, I was expecting to be honored.
Empress?
I really was. Like the day that those custodians doing business as sheriff, I saw them. I watched the whole thing play when they unlawfully removed me from my domicile. I watched the whole thing play out. I was looking out of the window, and I was like, okay, they finally got my notices, and they're going to get these people out of my office so I can start governing from the office and make sure that people are taken care of and everything like that. And they came with the drill and opened my door, and it was like, I thought y'all were the law. I thought y'all obeyed the law. So yeah, I was very naive.
They, Empress, I've heard that that same a scenario similar to that on numerous occasions. We all thought that at one point. We all thought that at one point. But you know, from my first demonstration, especially the first time I was pulled over after I woke up, it was about 2 months. It didn't take long. 2 or 3 months after I woke up in May 24th, 2017, I woke up. And it was a couple of months after that, because as soon as I woke up, off came the tags, off the conveyance, off came this and that, you know, and I was just like Moors all the way from the beginning. And when I got pulled over the first time, I was thinking, the policy enforcer, they came and tapped on the window, clank, 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 you know how they do. Driver's license and insurance. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get to show my moorishe ID. They get to know that I know who I am. This is going to be great. It wasn't great. It was, well, this doesn't make any sense. I'm going to let you go this time, but you need to get tags on your car. That's what they said. You need to get tags on your car. The crazy thing about that, though, is that when I was pulled over on the side of the road and going through this rigmarole with them, people were passing by and asking me if I was okay. And I thought, okay, this is the weirdest, because why would they even care? This place is not that big. You know, it's between Seattle and Tacoma, which are big, you know, places. But people were stopping in the middle of the road going, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. You know, but the ancestors were telling me then, and that's why the spiritual connection is so important, Empress, throughout this whole thing. As things unfold, keep your energies clear so that you can see what the ancestors are saying to you through the testing, because you're being tested right now. And some don't want to hear that, but if you look in the records, we were always tested. That whole children of Israel story, test. The whole Noah story, test. Noah was told to build a boat, and it had never rained on earth before. Those are tests. Can you hear in the spirit realm? Can you hear? That's what the tests are about. Some don't want to hear that, but that won't change it. You know, when we keep our spirit clear, the things that the ancestors want you to see, you'll see. And it's not necessarily gonna be a big giant bouquet of flowers from some subjects. It's not, it's going to be, everything that manifests is going to manifest differently from the way that we were trained for it to manifest. Our ancestors said, program them this way, and then they're going to have to hear us to see the truth. That's what they said. So our victories manifest and our successes manifest in ways that we won't notice unless we open our spiritual eyes. And that's where sincerity, like we know that you're sincere. We hear the truth in your spirit, Empress. That's why you're still, you're still demonstrating, because you know there's something to it. You can feel it in your spirit. After every demonstration, and we said this in the past before, first the ancestors, and this is before the demonstration, the ancestors will give us some information in our spirit, and they may or may not affirm it in writing. But even with Delarium, I'll use Delarium and Ancient English as examples. The ancestors said you need to have your own money. Do you know what people were saying to us about printing our own money? And how this is the first time in our existence as a people in this era where this many of us have said this is our money and not that. Do you know how much energy was thrown back at us saying you can't do that? And then now, just now, the ancestors are still saying that was absolutely what you should have been doing and you're going to be so glad you did it. And we can see that now. And even those who were saying you can't do that before have completely zipped it. Because they're now saying we need gold, we need silver, let's collect things. Gold is anything but that, anything but fiat.
I personally thought it was brilliant when it was first introduced, like it wasn't any doubt whatsoever, along with the in capitis diminutio minima and the red ink, like it was, and then you know, changing the spelling of the words. Like when I saw it, there was no question about it whatsoever, especially when we did the study and the resources were brought forth.
Yeah,
like it was no question.
You know, Empress, that's because you can see in the spirit realm, you can see those things. And now the same thing with you. The ancestors are saying, go ahead and demonstrate that. And then after you demonstrate, we're going to show you where, yep, you heard that right in the spirit. You heard that right. It looks one way, but just like that, Empress, it's going to change. And you're going to see it for what it really is. And they're not even going to be acting no more. Those are stages and phases of our demonstration. And that happens at a different time for different Moors. Some Moors in this territory, you know, they still may not see the full benefit of us having our own money. They know we need it, but they're saying, I'm not going to use Alarium, you know, and that's okay. We're not mad at that at all because we know what the ancestors told us. And we know from a macro perspective that the whole earth is saying, can y'all get off that fiat over there at America so we can all be free? Because they can't be free until we are. And now that we are, they are. You know, so that's an individual thing where the ancestors are saying to each one of us, go ahead and demonstrate who you are and stand so that we can show you after you demonstrate that the demonstration that you did is absolutely what you should be doing. There is no wrong way to be ourselves. And we will see the results of that as we continue to do so.
Islam and yeah, the ancestral energies have been telling me and guiding me to stealth. That word keeps coming out, stealth. So I do my demonstrations in a stealthy way.
Yeah.
They're not as bold as that POW demonstration that shocked me.
Yes.
Like I had gone my whole life, and I'm in my 40s, trying to walk a fine line so I don't, you know, have that on my record, so I can't get, you know, I won't be able to get a job and all this and all that. And here I am being myself and was unlawfully detained for being myself. I didn't injure anybody. I didn't curse. I didn't do anything unlawful.
What they did wasn't right. That should tell you that what they did, that wasn't the reason why they did it. That wasn't even.
It does now, but in the moment, it was just like it was. It was shocking.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I'm being myself and telling 100% truth of who I am, and I'm being arrested for nothing.
That should tell you, Empress, our ancestors are saying, okay, now that you see, are you still going to stand so that we can show you that their records are not your record? That them saying you have a record, they're telling the truth that you have a record, but it's a record that you create, and that their record is not your record. That one demonstration right there, Empress, the POW demonstration is where that's where the rubber meet the road with the Moors. I'll be straight with you on that. Some Moors, a few, not the majority of the Moors are like, bring it on. We're going to get this done. You know, because they already know they're not going to be in there long. you know. And they know that to whom much is given, much is required. We must be strong because this estate is vast, and the hypothecation of it never has to happen when we're strong. But you can't get strong without being tested, period. Let's just, is there anyone who disagrees with me or who feels that they can be strong without being tested? That's what a gym is. That's where the strong man comes. From the use of the muscle. Not sitting at home wishing he was strong. Our demonstrations make us strong. And Empress, I can tell by your spirit, you can see. You can see. You already know that we are without spot or wrinkle or any such blemish. We have no blemishes. In our nation, on our land, our records, you did your records. So do you have any crimes on your record? No, because you created them. And the thing is, even by international law, we must create our own records. No one can identify us but us. And you admitted that, and that's why the ancestors were going to honor the demonstration. They were going to honor it because you weren't being dirty. You were just being yourself. Period. Some don't like that testing part, and that's okay because that's not going to stop it from coming. We might as well be ready for it when it comes, you know. And even if we're not ready, we're ready because we know to state who we really are. Period.
And I'll just make give a few more testaments because I know we were trying to wrap it up. So as far as the POW demonstration, I was a little disappointed in myself because I knew I wasn't supposed to sign or autograph or anything like that. So when they put the paper in front of me, I made a statement. I do not consent to unlawful, illegal joinder and adhesion contracts. Gave it back to them. They said this is not acceptable and took me back. And then he said you do have to sign. I said because before I even put that statement, the custodian doing business as magistrate said, you need to sign. And I said, well, you can't tell me how to sign because I knew they couldn't tell me how to sign. Mm-hmm. And so she said, yeah, I can't tell you how to sign, but you do need to sign. So that's when I put my statement. I do not consent. That wasn't acceptable for them. Took me back. I came back. You need to sign. And so at that point,
Empress,
yes.
From the time that you said that you signed and then they took you back and then they said, no, you have to do it this way. How much time transpired between the first time that you signed and they said it was unacceptable to when they brought you back? How much time had transpired?
Okay, so it happened 3 times. The first time I was in front of a hybrid. Modern
European.
Yeah, modern European, yes. And when, he said something, I don't remember what he said. No, he said that I needed to affirm such and such. I don't remember the exact terms. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I positioned myself to do the Moorish American prayer. I put 5 hands up on the right, 2 on the left, and then he just walked away. He got impatient with me, walked away. And so they took me back upstairs. And then maybe about 20 minutes later, they came they took me to the cell after that first one. And then about 20 minutes later, they brought me back down. And I said, this time, you know what? They playing with me now. Like I knew that in my energy, like they really playing with me. But I was scared and then I was ready to get out. And so I went back in front of the custodian doing business as magistrate. And, she handed me the paper. Said that I needed to sign. I said, you can't tell me how to sign. And she confirmed, I can't tell you how to sign. And so that's when I put the statement. And then that wasn't acceptable to her. And so they took me not back upstairs, but like into the holding spot. And then the custodian doing business as policy enforcer came back and he said, you know, I'm going to see if she'll see you again. Because I told him, I said, I don't have any confidence in any of you people because you heard her say she couldn't tell me how to sign, but she told me how to sign. And he said, yeah. He said, yeah. And he said, I'm gonna see what I can do. He seemed like he was trying to, you know, he was being kind to me. And so he came back and he said, you're going to have to sign. So I get back in front of her, and then, you know, my statement was still on the paper. You know, I do not consent. And I knew I wasn't going to put my living born appellation. I knew I wasn't going to put that because I hadn't been going by that since 2017 when I woke up. So I've been Karima Bay since 2017. So I knew I wasn't going to put my living born appellation. So I put Karima Bay under my statement. And then when that wasn't acceptable, I said, you know what, just take me back upstairs. I wasn't going to do anything else. Nothing. And I was just going to just stand there at that point because, you know, it was 100% evident that they were playing with me. And I wasn't going to, you know, at that point I had gotten stubborn. I wasn't going to do anything else. I was just going to sit in there. And so when I said, take me back upstairs, that's when the policy enforcer said, you know, the judge wants you to go. So, and in hindsight, my mother had already given them the bail money, and they had to release me. So if I had known, if I had known that I knew, I would have just stood and I wouldn't have done anything, and I just would have been out.
Yeah. And you know this in your spirit. I'm just going to affirm what you already know. If they cannot tell, if they admit it to you that they don't have the authority to tell you how to sign, then they don't have authority over you at all, period. Because you can't have partial authority over somebody and partial not. Either you have authority over someone or you don't. Either you have it or you don't. Authority is not a partial thing.
We went over it earlier. Can you go back to that part, Islam? Sorry.
And then let me ask you this too. Because, see, I know they didn't. But I'm going to ask you just for the sake of the Moors. Each time, Empress, and this is, I just want eyes to open on this part all over, everyone who's hearing this. Each time that they took you back, Empress, and they said, no, that's not acceptable, you have to do it a different way. Did even one time, did they pull out a public law or a constitution or anything that said you must sign this way by law? Did they pull out anything in writing, or were they just hot airing you?
They didn't pull anything out.
Of course not, because that's not the law. They just were banking on you not knowing that that's not the law. Come on now. Empress, I'm so glad that you stood the way that you did, though, because
thank you. They
already know that you're on something. You're on it. They knew they couldn't keep you either way. They just hope during that 20-minute time period, because it's not long, they take people back and then they say, okay, give her 20 minutes and let's see if she changed her mind. Or is she going to stand, you know? And they do that with Moors all the time. The first time I did my POW demonstration in 2017, they held me in there for 20-something days. And each day that went past, I was thinking, you really ain't getting nothing today. If you was going to get anything, you might have got it that first day, but they weren't even going to get it then. And I had never been in any situation like that for that long. Never. You know, they were interested in whether you were going to yield to the programming, Empress. They knew they had to let you go. They had to do that. And again, Moors, when they start saying you can't do this and you can't do that, say show me in writing. Put it, and not just show me, put it in writing and you sign it, saying I can't sign like that. You sign a document saying that. Otherwise, you haven't presented me with enough evidence that says I can sign however I want to sign. If I don't want to sign at all, I don't have to sign. But you show me what you're saying in writing, and then you sign it. Because, see, that's going to authenticate the lie if they do that. And so they'll bend over backwards and do 3 jumping jacks to stop from signing it. Signing anything saying what they're trying to tell you. No, you can't sign it like that. Show me that in writing. Because according to the Constitution, Article 3 and Article 6. Article 6 says, listen, in 2017, I'm just glad that Empress, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Because you stood and you scared the crap out of them, you know that. You really did. And they said, okay, we're going to take a deep breath, just send her back. And see, the 3 times is the Masonic, that's the knock on the door. That's why they did it 3 times, Empress. They were doing Masonic rituals. But they know they couldn't have kept you, Empress. They better not keep our Empress. They couldn't have kept you because your spirit was clear. You're not mad at anyone. You're just quoting the law and being yourself. That's all we have to do is quote the law, be ourselves, and be determined that no matter how long they keep us in a cell, we ain't moving off this square. Period. We're not moving. And we're not mad at them for what they're doing. Islam.
Did she ask for her refund regarding the bond?
No, that didn't even occur to me to ask for that. I did lien the custodian doing business as magistrate, and I lien the custodian doing business as bondsman, and yeah. And the policy enforcer that unlawfully detained me, they were leaning. Mm-hmm. Or he was leaning, yeah.
So they were using their person, Empress. Federal rule for civil procedure, not federal rule of civil procedure. Federal rule for civil procedure says that you're the fiduciary of the all caps. And that you are substituting in, and you're putting your all caps in because it's the original. The one they were speaking to and that they issued a bond for is a clone. That's why they look so much alike. And you thought they were talking to you because that's a clone. But it's a stateless clone. See, you substituted the real one in. You did that in stating who you really are. They know you're the creditor as a fiduciary. And all we have to do is keep standing on that, on knowing who we are.
Yeah, I did. I just remembered another part when I was in the holding spot that they call a cell. The custodian doing business as policy enforcer came up with the iPad, and she said, Miss Lamb, and every time that they would call me Miss Lamb, I would say I'm Karima Bay. Every time I'm Karima Bay, I would just correct them every time. Mm-hmm. And she came with the iPad, and the custodian doing business as judge. I saw him on the screen, and I just started saying the Moorish American prayer, and then I told him I was Karima Bay, governing justice, executor, fiduciary, and I needed him to state his name and nationality for the record. Mm-hmm. And then she took the screen away.
Yeah.
She just took the screen away.
Islam. That's powerful. Islam. That's a powerful demonstration, Empress. That's very powerful. Islam nobility.
Islam.
Yes. I want to.
There's an emperor that's speaking, and then the empress. The emperor had said something previously. Emperor, go ahead and.
Yes, as a Moor, she could have basically dismissed the magistrate, and they would have no other opportunity but to dismiss her whole case. Clearly. Because the magistrate is acting as basically he's acting as a lawyer with a bar card. He can challenge the bar card. He's basically practicing law from the bench, which is against the Constitution. So he could have shut that whole case down.
Yeah, there's a million and one ways for us to be ourselves. Nobility, that's a good suggestion as well. That's again, we just have to know that anything that they're doing, they're talking to their corpse and not the living natural person, which we are the fiduciaries of.
Yes, and as a Moor, she could have presented the case that he was a tax collector on behalf of IRS.
Except we just want to be sure not to give them that title, or he'll start acting like that. We just have to be sure to get that's good, because he really was pretending to be that.
He was a tax collector. Yes, he basically was a tax collector because he was asking for FRN.
That's how you know they're actors, because they're asking for something that has no value. It has no value. It's essentially ghost money. It's not even it's money. It's just fiat. It has no value. So, I mean, there's a million and one ways. Empress, I honor your demonstration, especially, and I'm tapping a little bit into the energy that you may have been feeling at the time, especially because you were not accustomed to that type of stuff going on, you know.
Thank you, Empress. Thank you, Morris, for all your input. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. Empress, keep being yourself. Please keep being yourself.
Yeah. And the Empress that did the demonstration, I just realized something, that for her to sign would have been fraud, because what they were asking her to sign wasn't her. Did you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes, it was not that was their corpse. That was not you. And you know.
That would have been fraud.
Yeah. This is the thing about all of that is Empress, and this is one thing I'm really grateful for. When we're tested like that, the ancestors put their hedge of protection around us. No matter what the outcome, you know, you may feel like, oh, I shouldn't have signed anything, you know. The ancestors protected you because you were demonstrating who you were, and you were not warring with them. You were just demonstrating. And that's what they want from us. They want us to honor their ways and honor them by demonstrating. And we may not always do that in the way that we even may think is the best way. But as long as we're doing it in spirit and in truth, they will honor that, and they'll make the burden will be easy and the yoke will be light as we're demonstrating and going through these things that we're going through. This testing. This is called the Great Tribulation, but it's really the Great Tribute. In other words, it is the greatest transfer of wealth the earth has ever seen. And when you're talking about that much wealth being transferred, it must be transferred to those who are calm under pressure, and who know the law and who know who they are. Because, you know, who would want someone to be in charge of that much wealth and not be level-headed and not be peaceful and not be competent? You know. Empress, I honor your demonstration. I mean, I can feel the energy of what you were going through, because even after the 25 days, 26 days, something like that in jail in from December 10, 2017 to January 4th, 2018. And after that even, I had family members questioning what I was doing, like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? what is this all about? And for a half second in February 2018, I was just thinking, ancestors, did I hear you correctly? Did I miss something? What is it? And they were like, nope, you got everything right. Just keep doing it. Just keep going. I was like, okay.
And I honor your demonstrations too, because you've done it 3 times. The POW camp demonstration 3 times, 2 times, okay.
2 times, yeah.
And then 20 days, I was in there for 5, and it felt like 20 or more. So, yeah, high honors to you too, Islam.
Yeah, Empress, I knew there was something to that jail piece, and again, not all Moors will be tested that way. So we're not glorifying jail.
Absolutely.
We are definitely saying though that that when testing comes, we can stand, because that was actually the biggest boogeyman for me. Before, when I first woke up, that was my first question to the ancestors is, how do we get past fake judges and fake policy enforcers? Because they got guns and we don't. That was what I asked the ancestors. They said, we'll show you how. Are you willing to be tested? I said, yes, I am. Just show me how to get past them. And they did. By testing past them. They never had any authority in the first place. But we did not know that they were using a fake person, quote unquote, and a person is just all caps. And that we had our own person. We have a natural person that we are the fiduciaries for. We're not persons. We are in propria persona sua juris. And so, and I'm going to keep emphasizing that we have our own person and that they're using corpses, because that's the one point right there that that seems to have been in the past the sticking point for a lot of the Moors. They did not know that when those fakes said whatever they said about their corpse, that they were not talking to us, and how to properly rebut that. We rebut it with our own natural person. Our own natural person only exists on paper, but you can get whatever it is that you need, and you can rebut what you need to rebut using a natural person. That's what you call a double-edged sword and diversity. Islam nobility.
This is Izim again. I was just thinking, Empress Light, I was thinking from the standpoint of her autograph in Nolo not waiving any of her rights. Then the court would have been jammed to the point where they had to release it.
Yeah, and they're not even a real court, so they would have to. Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Empress, I'm glad that you said that, we don't have to go to jail, and I'm definitely not glamorizing. I'm not, I just did what I had to do in the moment. But yeah, I didn't have to go to jail, because when I look back over it, I could have done it a different way, and avoided that, really. So that's just to the Moors who think, that you have to go to jail, and you don't have to do that. I could have went about it a different way.
Empress, I'll say this about that too. Our ancestors will have us to face our greatest fears so that we know we don't have anything to fear. And for me, and for my personality and my astrological and cosmological makeup, the ancestors knew that no matter what I was going to stand, because I'm a Leo by, astrological makeup, and Leos, you can't, for some of us, you can't give us, you can't baby us. You gotta give it to us the way that the straight way. And when you give it to us straight, we get it, and we never lose it. We can take the blunt stuff, and they know we're not going to whine about it either. We're not going to whine. We're going to look for the lessons in it so that we see, okay, what do we need to do next? What's next? Because we're mission driven. And every Moor has some Leo energy in them. Every Moor has every other sign's energy in them. So Empress, I can pull from your astrological makeup and find some strengths there that Leos may not be necessarily known for. You know, so the ancestors knew just throw her on light, throw light into the hot water first, and she'll come on out. You know, and they did. You know, and we were up for that. We were up for it. We were up for it. We didn't know it was going to happen that way, but here we stand. Here we stand, stronger than ever. And Empress, you're stronger today because of that. So doing it another way, the ancestors know what they're doing. With each one of us, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Empress, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to just say this one last thing. That POW demonstration was about all the hurt and stuff that I had been holding in. I had been holding in so much stuff. And when I was in there, I remember before they called me down the first time to be released, I was laying on the bunk, and I was in a daydream or whatever. And, you know, thoughts were coming up, and, you know, I popped up out of my sleep, and I opened my eyes, and I said, I love my mama. I love my daddy. I love, you know, I just went down a list of all those, you know, all of my kin that I, you know, felt that I needed to release that negative energy for. And shortly after that, that's when they called me down. So in hindsight, for me, it was to put me away so I can release that stuff.
Of course it was, Empress. And see, only you and your ancestral energies would know that until you decide to reveal that to everyone, that's what that test was about.
That's exactly what it was about.
I know what my tests were about, too. The ancestors were saying, you better not be afraid of anything because you got stuff to do. That's going to require you not to be scared.
Islam. Empress Light, I was just thinking, wouldn't it be much more to the point if we challenged jurisdiction, since basically she was in a tribunal, admiralty tribunal?
I'm sure she's done that.
From there until jurisdiction is challenged.
Yeah, I'm sure she's done that, nobility. You know, when we're being tested, sometimes nerves kick in, and sometimes we say, okay, what do we say? What do we do? In any case, no matter who it is, we challenge jurisdiction. And challenging jurisdiction, nobility, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Challenging jurisdiction doesn't look the same from one Moor to the next. Challenging jurisdiction at one point can be someone stating, I'm challenging your jurisdiction, or I'm challenging jurisdiction. And for others, they don't even mention the word jurisdiction, they just state who they are. That is an automatic challenge. When we state who we are, like you did, Empress, and they knew that. That's why they only waited 20 minutes or so between each time they brought you back, because they knew she's going to stand. She's going to stand.
And to respond to the Moore's question, yes, I did. On the scene before the policy enforcer even put handcuffs on me, I told him he didn't have jurisdiction. He didn't have subject matter, territorial, nor personam jurisdiction. And I told him that he had 2 seconds to respond to this affidavit, and he did. He did by putting those.
Get them. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Empress, that's how you know the demonstrations is not even about that part. It's not
right.
To do what we tell them.
Right.
But we have some things that we have to work out within us. And for some of us, the ancestors say this is the best way to work it out. Is put them under a little pressure, and then the truth and the real them will come out of their heart and free them. Yeah. My test, Empress, I'll say this too. Mine was about me not being afraid to be tested because of what my family might say, because the family that I come from, you know, we come from a huge family. Everyone, you know, is, you know, doing what they do in terms of the corporate thing and all of that. And one of the first things that one of my brothers said to me when I first got out of that first POW test was, you know, sis, you don't belong in a jail. You shouldn't be in jail. And that's the programming speaking, and he was saying it out of love. He really loves me. But the ancestors were saying to me, make sure that you don't have anything in the way in terms of that so that you can do all that you need to do. Make sure that your ego is not in the way so that we can refine you like pure gold. And whatever that refinement looks like, let it be what it is. You know, because we do, you know, in my family, in my kinship line, we do, you know, we cared about what each other thought of, you know, what was going on in our lives. But I know the spiritual aspect of it too, and that's where the clarity came in at, you know. So each more that is tested, number one, let me say this, the ancestors will always warn you in your spirit before the test comes that a test is coming. They never give us a test without us knowing that something is about to happen.
Islam. I can agree with that. Islam.
We may not know what that something is, but something is about to happen. They tell us in our spirit. So sometimes when things happen and they are angry about it and they call and, you know, they're angry and things, I say, well, did your spirit tell you in any way that you were about to be tested? And some will say, no, I didn't hear anything. And I say, okay. And I just kind of make a mental note that, yes, you did, because our ancestors, it's even in the writings that our ancestors are not going to test us without telling us. The Bibliotheliotext says that God will not do anything without going through the prophets first, because the prophets have to prophesy about what's happening, because that's what prophets do.
Islam Empress, that's what I was getting ready to say, that you're a prophetess, and I know that because that POW demonstration was February 4th. And I had listened, I don't remember exactly which video it was, but it was maybe late January. You said that testing would be coming February, and that's what happened for me, February 4th. And then you also said another test would be coming in March. And the first day of March, March 21st, that's when I was tested again with the removing me from the domicile. So, yeah.
And, you know, Empress, you still stand. You still stand. And by the way, my second POW demonstration in 2020 it was 2021. That second POW demonstration was in February also. It was February, it started February 8th. The ancestors never test us without letting us know.
One last thing, Empress. When I woke up in 2017, I started doing research about being a light worker. And so to make a long story short, I took on that energy of being a light worker. And then here you are, your appellation is light. So, you know, and I know that light means knowledge as well. So it's not that I work for light, it's, you know, but, you know. So,
well, we all are light.
Right.
We could have all called ourselves light and been right.
Exactly.
Yes.
I just thought that was great how I took on that energy, and then I discovered you on October 31st of 2019. I had been asking the ancestors to show me how to do lings, and then I found you on. I was just doing some searching, and I had been doing searching, but I could never find any Moors that was giving information about lings. I would just find bits and pieces about lings and everything like that. And on October 31st. I went to do searching again because, like I said, I just kept doing searching. I knew eventually I would find something. Yes. And that's when I found you, and you was giving the whole ling
Empress, that means that you are a powerful manifester. You manifest what it is that you want. That's what that means, is you have the authority to manifest, and each one of us does. That's magic. That is our supernatural. It's not really supernatural. It's natural for us. Anything that we want, our ancestors will show us. They just want to know if we're willing to do what it takes. And we have no hesitation. The ancestors are telling me now even that I have something else, that something else is about to happen, but everyone is saying something's about to happen. Everyone is saying that. We all can feel that something is about to happen. We don't know what that something is, but what I do know about that something is that, number one, we're protected. Number two, is for our good. And number three, it ain't going to do nothing but help us no matter what it is. No matter what it is. Our ancestors mean for us to take this estate and control it and use it to grow the estate. Use the estate to grow the estate. And that comes from testing and knowing who we are and all of that. That's what it comes from. The energies are saying the same thing. The energies are saying, something's about to happen, and I don't know what that's. Well, I can't say I don't know what it is because I do. I'm actually going to be doing a demonstration tomorrow that I talked about it on a previous call, but I know once that demonstration is done that it means something for us. That I know because I just know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what the manifestation is going to be. I don't know what that's going to look like. And I can't really say that because I do know what it's going to look like. The ancestors are giving me a peek into it. But again, I've come to know that sometimes we can see something in our mind's eye, and then the ancestors will say, oh, here it is, right here. So I was afraid to do, thank you for saying that, Empress, because before we close this call, which we're about to adjourn, but before we adjourn, I want to just request that you all send me some energy, some strength and energy for the demonstration that I'm going to be doing in the next few days. Because, and I was going to ask that the other day, but I said I'll just wait. Because I don't know what the outcome is going to be in terms of what it's going to look like. I know what it means, or I wouldn't be doing the demonstration. We're always to demonstrate at the level of our overstanding. I understand what the demonstration means, but I don't know what the manifestation and the rolling out of the results is going to be. I don't know what that looks like, So that's not going to stop me from doing it. I'm going to do it. And so I just ask for your sovereign energy to just go with me when I go to do the demonstration tomorrow. So, and thank you for those who send it. I appreciate your energy because it is necessary. Thank you, Justice Dumont. Anyway, so is there anything further from this congressional, highly honored, grand, supreme judiciary?
Yeah. Islam, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to add, the sister had a beautiful demonstration, but I also wanted to add to remember that anything signed under duress is null and void. So duress is a signature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Empress. Thank you.
Islam. Empress, can you feel the love?
Yes, I do. I have been holding on because I was ashamed to tell that because I was so disappointed in myself for doing that. But now I know.
We're so proud.
You know,
we're so proud. So excited for you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you. Thank you
You're
all.
very strong, Empress. You're very strong. You did all the right things.
And Empress, like, had you not put that lien process on the record that way, I wouldn't have had the time to study. I wouldn't have had the time to study for that demonstration. And, I really appreciate you.
Empress,
I
thank
really,
you so
really
much.
appreciate you. Like, for those Moors, I know they may just not comprehend or whatever, but you saved me and my heirs, and gave me some time to study so I can get, level up and do what needed to be done.
You saved you by doing the work. Because you know what? No one can save a sovereign. As much as people would love to say they saved somebody, we can't even claim that. We save ourselves. But Empress, I thank you so much because, the lien process was something that was hidden when I first woke up. And I was asking the ancestors to show us that process, and they did. We saw some things on the record, but we didn't see it the way the ancestors gave it to us. We didn't see liens by affidavit. We only saw liens by forms. We saw liens, other people doing liens, and they were doing the forms, and we never saw any real. I did not see what I was looking for in my spirit realm about those forms. So I said, okay, ancestors, just show us how to do it. And I said, when you show me how to do it, I'm gonna tell everybody. I'm gonna tell everybody how to do it because it's been hidden and we didn't know. And people were talking about doing liens and they were charging people 1,500 Federal Reserve notes and things like that for a process that belongs to the people. The information belongs to everybody. And just like Grand Sheik said about a week and a half ago at House of Reawakening Minds, he said that when you charge someone Federal Reserve debt notes for a process and for paperwork, that's what he said, for paperwork, you're placing a lien on the information that you don't have a right to place. So the ancestors said, okay, we'll show you how to do it. And I said, shoot. And let me tell you, and we'll close with this because I could go all day too. But when we did the lien demonstration, the views they shot up to like 30,000 views in less than a month almost. It was a very short time that the views on YouTube. And then we could see our whole channel being moved to another place in the YouTube brackets or whatever. So they took it off of that platform and put it someplace else, and then the views went all the way down, which we didn't care about that because it ain't gonna stop us from putting the information out, because we know their numbers are not real numbers, So we get to say, and I'm glad that we've done something that can assist, because that's why we're all here, is to help each other. With that being said, if there's nothing further from the Grand Supreme Judiciary Body, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine. Yes.
One second. I just want to tell everybody this. Me and Sister Paddle is talking about when they tried to supposedly remove you from the judiciary. I said, Sister Charlie, don't worry about them, because they can't remove her because it is put her there. Brother Tyler put her in that position, and she was sent by the Creator. So I said, watch what's going to happen next. Now, what's going to happen 2 years later? What's going to happen? That's what I got to say. Wow.
Empress, I was wondering about that, but I saw through it, so that's why I never even presented the question, anything about it, because I saw through it.
Attacking our sister.
Let me say this about that, if I may say just a quick word about that. Number one, Grand Sheik did not put me in this position. Mother put me in this position. Our mother energy put me in this position. Mother sent us, and this is the thing about this position. Every last one of you is in the same position. So, this is not something that others had to vote you into. That is why you are called the elect. It's not that others elect you, it's that you were chosen the elect before you came here. The elect is not what we thought it was. And that's why we're the elect, all of us. All Moors are the elect. The elect means specifically chosen by the ancients. That's what elect really means when you talk about us. And so, although we went to the House of Reawakening Minds and we were sent in this capacity on May 18, 2018. But that's not what put us here. We were doing the work before then even, And, we're just grateful that Mother sent us here to do this work, and we didn't need anybody to vote us in. And we actually have stepped aside when people were saying, let's vote, we'll just vote for you to do this and this and this. I've always said no. Because if people can vote you in, they can vote you out, and I'm not going to stop doing my work because Mother sent me here, and I'm not going to be judged by the ancestors for not doing this work. And if I was something, if I was any Moors, I would say, hey, do your work and don't care who votes and don't vote. Do your work, because we are held accountable for the work that our ancestors sent us here to do. They mean business about this estate. And it's just like with the story of Esther. The ancestors are saying the same thing that Mordecai told Esther. Mordecai said the people are going to be saved. The nation is going to be saved, whether it be by you or somebody else. But if you don't do it, what the ancestors sent you here to do, you and your family will be judged. So Esther went on and did what she had to do, and boom, there it is. And we know it's the same way with us. It's a wrap. It's not even a matter of if we're going to do it. We're doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. We honor a voting process, but the vote is for all of us to have the same authority in our votes. That's why we move the way we move on this, from this body perspective. We all vote. We vote on issues. We don't have to vote on people because we're all chosen. With that being said, yeah, Islam. Yes, Empress Rose, I see your comment in the chat. I will. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural.
Peace and energy.
Islam. Islam.
Peace, love, and grand rising.
Islam. Empress Tyler, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Islam. Empress Tyler, one of these days.
Nope.
Huh? Say again, Empress. Empress
Tyler, there is no shame in that work.
Yes. Ooh,
okay, excuse
yes.
me.
Yes, Empress Cynthia. Yes. We don't have time for shame, do we? No, we do not. We don't have time for that. We got work to do. Islam. We will end the recording, and at some point, I would love to see more cameras open with the empresses with their turbans and the heirs with their fezzes on. I would love to see that a little more often too. That would be great. Just a suggestion, because you can't tell sovereigns what to do. Islam. Peace and grand rising.